Hey guys, welcome back to the House Rules Podcast. I'm Carter Bastien with Align Lending, mortgage guy. I'm here with
John Binkowski. I'm here representing Century 21 Signature in Flushing, the realtor side of the podcast. Happy to be here, Carter. Thanks, buddy.
you've got somebody who wants to buy a home. They got some credit concerns. What's your move?
So usually I'll poke around. I'll ask a few questions, ask them what their credit score is. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't. See where their situation is. That way I can tee you up or the lender up, any lender, and kind of give them some backstory, give them some information to work with where they know a little bit. But from there, I usually try to defer to the lender. I've said this a million times on this podcast, but in this case especially, I will defer to the lender for guidance, for some spiritual guidance, one, for two, uh, guidance on moving forward. What are their options right now? And what are their options going forward from there? And what do they have to do? If they can't buy a house right now, what do they have to do to get there?
What they're telling you is what they think is going on with their credit situation. And a lot of times it can look a lot different when we actually run credit in our system and we run it through the automated underwriting system. So if people have, their Credit Karma or the Equifax boosted one score that's going to be higher or lower, whatever they're seeing in that one credit bureau, it might be different with the other two. So out of the three different scores, you might be looking at three different apps. You did the Experian Boost, and in Experian, you're showing you got a 700, but Equifax, you're down at 600, and in the fives with TransUnion. If you have all three scores reporting, the representative score that they're going to base it off of for different pricing tiers, etc., your credit score in the eyes of the lender is going to be based off of the middle score. But you can do it if you insufficient information with one bureau and you have another bureau that's frozen, but you still have at least one score reporting.
Gotcha. That's good to know. And you never know where someone might be at in their credit journey. Do you have credit? Might be another question that comes up. A lot of people out there don't have credit. Believe it or not, they don't have credit. They pay for everything in cash. They have done that forever. Their parents might be baby boomers. My parents are baby boomers. And I give them props, give them credit because they told me to get credit and get a credit card when I was in high school, make payments, make small payments on it, buy gas with it, buy groceries, go take your girl out for ice cream and get some ice cream with the credit card, because you're building credit over time. And the earlier you start, the better. And they always taught me too, to pay the full balance off. Don't make the minimum payment, because then you're going to be paying interest on the rest of the money that you owe. So there's little tidbits that you'd think would be common sense, but they don't get taught in school. They don't get taught in class in high school. So a lot of these things are either self-taught or you're taught by a guardian, father figure, mom, dad, grandma, etc. Someone in your family kind of has to give you this information from a young age when you're in high school. And then hopefully, by the time you get to college about how to build credit, but that's not the case for everybody. So you might have to,
Not for me.
you might have to have a little bit of post-college coaching, which there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that they're dead and gone. You just have to get them in the right spot where they can, in that case, build some credit so they can have a credit score and have a baseline to start from.
Yeah. And it's knowing where to even start from. Like, as much as my dad tried to tell me, and he was, he's a financial advisor. So he was on top of it when it came to making the right money moves. And he tried to instill them in both me and my brother. And growing up, my brother listened better than I did. But in college, my credit wasn't stellar. There was times where, even though I had automatic payments set up, there was times where I was struggling to be able to make those payments and juggle things while I was in school. I was a student full time as well. And life circumstances come up at any stage in life. But I think especially when it's early on, like when it's in college, when it's in high school, it's a lot easier in some cases to bounce back than what people think. And you're not that far behind from where you need to be if your credit score isn't where you want it to be or where the lender wants it to be in order to be able to grant a line of credit or to grant whatever it is, but to be able to obtain financing for buying your home or your car or whatever it may be. In order to get more credit, you need to have at least decent credit to start out. And it's kind of a dual-edged sword, because it's how do you obtain more credit and keep building your credit if you you're starting from a place that's way far behind and nowhere wants to lend you lines of credit in the first place. You got any tips on that, or you take?
Yeah, so you're kind of, I mean, like you said, you got to take small baby steps into paying your credit off. And if you have student loans, that's another one that I thought about. You got student loans, you got car payment, you might have an existing mortgage, et cetera. There's a bunch of different types of lines of credit where your credit score will be brought into play. Most of the time, it's going to be when you're buying a house or buying a car. That's the two most common times that a credit score will be utilized. But if you have a long ways to go, you might think you have a long ways to go, but in reality, there's options for you. So taking those baby steps to recover your credit, if you have credit, have bad credit, then that by all means, by all accounts, is the most important thing you can do is take those small baby steps to work towards improving your credit. Believe it or not, there's people with good credit that don't think they can buy a house just in this day and age with the market conditions, et cetera. But in reality, there's a lot more options that they have than might meet the eye. So the best advice I can give you, get with a loan officer, get with a lender, and they're going to give you a clear path to buying a house and to doing whatever you want to do financially. They're not a financial advisor, but they're going to tell you where you're at with your credit. And when it comes to getting a loan, that information is invaluable. So having a game plan, no matter where you're at in your credit life, then that's the best thing you can do.
And to your point about having better credit than what you realize, we've worked with clients before together in the past that have said, I've got some time, I got to work on my credit. Not too long ago, a client thought he was going to need to put some work into improving his score. I think he closed the month after that and surprised himself with where he came in to start. And he was able to get his credit back even higher in a quick amount of time. As far as building back from where you're at, we can give people the best advice that we're capable of, or get them connected with a professional that can help them take every step necessary, run simulations, do things to see exactly what they need to do to get into that optimal position to maximize the amount of credit they'll be extended and the best terms for that credit when they do, not just buying a house, buying whatever it may be that they need to seek out credit for.
I've heard of cases before where people get a pre-approved for a mortgage. They might get an offer accepted on a home, and then they go out and buy a car. Carter, how do you deal with something like that where they kind of add a surprise line of credit in the 11th?
Try to stop it before it happens the best you can by setting the right expectations to letting them know, because we're not expecting people to know that that's a bad thing to do. I mean, in their mind, they're thinking that they needed to, sometimes it's even to get furniture for their house or something that they're hoping they're going to be able to qualify for. Then they go and ruin the chances by doing something like that. But just letting them know, the loan approval can get real messed up if they do that. And especially somebody who's kind of hovering around what the maximum threshold is as far as what their debt to income ratio is. You don't want to add additional liabilities or installment debts, whatever it is. You don't want to mess with your credit during the loan approval process and during underwriting, even if it's to help your overall credit situation. Actually, somebody who's thinking about paying off their truck and they came across some money that was unexpected in lump sum. And during the loan approval process, they were asking me about it to see if it's a good time to be able to pay off their truck. They're not close on the DTI, but the main thing is that adds additional documentation. The underwriter is going to need to source those funds even if you pay off your credit, which in the long run, as soon as we close, by all means, go and do what you got to do. He could do it now, but you don't want to shake things up that don't need to be shaken during the process. We've already got your approval structured with the way it is, with the credit that you have already. You don't want to make too many changes when it's possible to avoid them. Make sure you're going to be able to get your keys. No problem.
So if it is doable, I guess in hindsight, say a similar situation to that, maybe we can use a
Mhm.
different situation of buying a new car, financing a new car, or even leasing a car for that
Definitely maneuver.
matter. Can they go forward, buy a house, close on the house? Now they have a mortgage payment. And then should they go buy that car or lease that car? Is that the right way to go about it?
And with the car, they're probably not going to be looking at what their debt to income ratios are as closely as what they would be qualifying for a mortgage. So at that point, it's not going to be scrutinized probably as much as what it would be when you're qualifying for a home loan if you're going to buy a car afterwards. So I think that when you're depending on the auto dealership too and who's willing to extend financing, there might be auto loans that if they're comfortable making that payment, they can probably go qualify for that after the fact.
From what I'm hearing from you, it's good to have that preliminary information. Maybe you can call it a initiation, or you can call it an orientation, if you will, to kind
That's
of get
tough.
some coaching on how to act with your finances and with your current lines of credit, your current credit score, your current credit availability, debt to loan, debt to loan ratio, et
Yep,
cetera. Good to have that information beforehand, because sometimes people don't have that information, and it winds up causing problems later on.
100%. And yeah, I think I got a little bit off track, but that's what I was going for was that setting the right expectations up front and letting them know how it can impact the loan is the most important thing so that they can be prepared and educated about what the impact could be of going and getting new credit because we're not expecting people to know this on their own, but that's what we're here for as the experts to be able to give them the best advice so they can get to the closing table without any problems. And even beyond that, giving them advice as a friend, as a someone that they've done business with, somebody who's helping them figure out what the best loan options are for a particular borrower. I'm figuring out a lot about their financial goals and what their both short and long-term goals are.
Yeah, that's very important stuff. I guess to flip the question back on you, what would you give, say someone's not in the best state credit wise? What kind of advice would you give them to help their credit get better?
When somebody's credit needs some work, I tread lightly as far as trying to be too much of an expert just because there are people that specialize in this that have made careers around this to help people and even people that are clients of mine and they're working with me so I can help them qualify for the mortgage loan for their home loan. But there's people that are more qualified to give advice on credit than what I would be just based on their financial expertise. I don't want to step on anybody's toes by trying to act like I'm an all-knowing expert of all fields, but we do see a lot of different situations of people trying to buy homes and we work with many people who need to repair their credit. We know what's worked in the past to be able to make these positive changes happen fast, whether that's getting them connected with somebody able to run simulations to see exactly what they need to do to improve their score fast. Maybe they've got things on their credit report that doesn't need to be there. But just getting a good feel for where they're at in terms of their credit journey and the best way to help them get back on track because it's going to be different for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no two credit situations that are drawn up the same. Just like there's no two clients or no two houses for that matter that are the same. Everyone is their own unique cause, and you have to deal with that circumstantially.
You'd be surprised how many people aren't aware of how low your credit score can actually be and still get eligible findings. You can still qualify for a home with some lenders that we work with allow down to 580. In general, the investors are going to reward the people that have the best credit scores with the best pricing ultimately. So there's a lot of incentives to be able to build it back up or to even be able to qualify for certain products that may have minimum score requirements that are much higher than 580. So it opens up a lot of doors that you wouldn't have access to otherwise. It's not always an easy solution. People might know exactly what they need to do to improve their credit, but they might not have the income or the means to make that happen. But it's just working with them to figure out where they're at in their life and the best way you can help them out to provide assistance to get them back on track.
Absolutely. Well said. So you mentioned 580 credit scores within there. Let's just do from 600 to 750. There's certain loans or certain products or certain programs that will benefit those people compared to people in the 800s or people in the high sevens. If so, what kind of products are those and how can buyers benefit from those?
Yeah, that's a good question. FHA loans in particular allow for higher DTI ratios in general, and lower FICO score borrowers are still getting very sharp pricing, very comparable to what a high FICO score borrower would be getting on a conventional loan.
So what would you say the most stark differences are and maybe similarities between the two types of pulls of credit?
Well, the soft credit pull, although it doesn't impact your credit score at all, not even a ding, The main difference is you can't do anything with it. A lot of times it's only going to be with one of the bureaus. I don't know if you're aware of where credit report prices are at nowadays. They're not cheap. I hardly ever do the soft credit pulls. And people seem to have this misconception that when you pull your credit, it's going to like make it drop 100 points. It's going to be a small ding that's temporary, and you're actually able to get your credit ran by multiple lenders within 45 to 60 days that you have to be able to shop around with multiple different lenders, but it's all going to group together as just one hard credit pull.
Okay.
So it also encourages people to go shop around a little bit, you know?
Gotcha. I think a lot of buyers think if I get my credit pulled from one lender and it's a hard pull, then if I go shop around with another lender, it's going to get hit hard again. So I'm just doubling down on the damage that's being done to my credit score. But you're saying that's not the case.
Yeah, not the case. It only counts as one credit pull. You can shop around with 10 different lenders, get it pulled 10 times. It'll be that one little ding. It'll be a small blemish that's temporary on your credit report.
We kind of touched on it a little bit, but somebody that has no credit, what advice would you give them to build some credit and start on their journey to getting pre-approved and getting into a home?
Well, now one thing that's relatively new is both Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac will allow you to report your rent. So if you're making rent payments on time, that's something you can do to get something that's reported and showing that you're responsible making payments on time. You can get secured lines of credit. Pretty quickly, you can build up some credit and you can get additional credit cards or things that hopefully you're going to be paying off on time and establishing a history of making your payments and being trusted with credit.
Okay, so for people out there that might have credit, they might not have credit, what direction would you point them in to get the best advice on cheat codes, loopholes, etc.?
The first thing I'm doing is I'm running their credit. We're seeing exactly where they're at. We're baselining it. There's a company that a lot of people on my team work with called My Credit Guy. And I think they're roughly a few $100s, but they'll do a lot of stuff for you as far as calling out and disputing debt and seeing if there's anything that can be removed to be able to get their credit to exactly where they want it to be. They're working with me to figure out where that target range is that they're trying to get to. And we're working out a plan of when we want to get them there, depending on what they've got going on with their credit. If it's something that's minor, I've got a much cheaper option, actually. It's like $15 that I can go through one of our lending partners. It's almost like a light version of My Credit Guy, where they can run the same type of simulations to see like making payments on time or a certain target utilization percentage of different credit accounts. So they can improve their credit quite a bit in a short amount of time to a score that we need them to be at, whether it's to even be able to qualify for the program or to get more favorable pricing. But it allows us to set that target and help them know exactly what they need to do to get there.
Another question that kind of just popped in my head. Why is it that this information, as far as just having good credit, holding good credit, this money that you're spending on credit, that's not free money? Why is this information not mainstream? And is there an angle from the credit companies because of this?
That's a great question. I wish I had an answer to it, but it should be. And it should be something that they teach in school instead of learning about geometry and shapes that really is not going to benefit me in many practical ways like this would, and that people understand how to be able to build up their credit and really what their importance in history of paying that money back to be trusted again. And that credit will just expand over time. It's not you go into the gym one day, you get a great workout in, and all of a sudden you walk out and you're super swole. No, it's something that over time you're going to build up. You might couple weeks into your workout routine, you might add another 5, 10 pounds. You're going to get stronger slowly. It's the same type of thing. If you do put in the work, you go from being out of shape to being in shape in a matter of just a few weeks.
Basically, the brick by brick mentality, baby steps, but proving that you can be lended to and proving that you can borrow, because that's so important in this day and age in any part of business and any part of growing up, is proving that you can pay your debts and you can pay your credit card bills, etc. Pay your bills in general, because you have to, at some point in your life, you will have to depend on credit. You'll have to depend on borrowing money from an entity, unless you're just given an unlimited amount of cash, liquid cash to spend. But that's not the case for 99% of us. So
Yeah. And the person lending the money, what are they going to say? He seems like he's trustworthy. We should go give him $100,000. It's not how it works. You've got to demonstrate that you're capable of paying that back time and time again. I mean, credit is kind of like a money tree that every time you go make a payment that's on time is you're watering this plant and you're mindful of what can blossom when you do take care of your plants.
not to make another analogy out of this, but it's kind of similar to getting a college degree. It doesn't matter what your degree is in. So many companies require, as a bare minimum now, a bachelor's degree, that you have that piece of paper, because what does that prove? It proves you have the ability to make deadlines. You have the ability to show up to class and get good grades to pass those classes. That's what that paper demonstrates. That proves that you can do those things well enough to graduate from a university or college. That same mentality of, I've demonstrated this, that I can do this at this capacity for this amount of time, proving that and demonstrating that, it shows them that you have the capability of doing it for real in the real world. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. So obviously credit is very important in regards to getting pre-approved for a loan. What else is on the list of important things that are required for getting pre-approved for a loan?
Yeah, so you mean in terms of like what the lender's looking at and who should qualify and who.
Yeah, what's the lender doing to kind of do their homework on where the client is at that given time?
Income, assets, and credit as
The big three. Those things are all so important in your daily life and ever so important when you're getting pre-approved for a loan. They're not just going to take your word for it. They got to see it on paper.
I know that it can be a sensitive subject. Helping people feel empowered knowing that their credit doesn't have to be stellar in the first place to qualify. It has to be good enough. And if they want better pricing, it has to be a little bit better than that. But depending on what it is that they're shooting for, I can help them get there. But they have to start the conversation, which I think is a common theme all of our episodes. Don't wait to go talk to somebody, even if you think there's no way you could qualify. What do we need to do to help you get there so that next year we can get you back on track so you will be able to qualify?
Absolutely. Take action. Don't wait. Do it now, because the longer you wait, likely the harder it is, the more difficult it will be.
You're not alone in this. We're not judgmental. We're going to help you get to where you want to go, regardless of where you're starting from. All right, John. Well, I think that about does it. We took enough of these good people's time. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
See you guys here next time.